All right. I'm excited for this episode. This is episode 3 of Benchmarker Brews. Today I have Adi as usual, my partner in crime here. And today we have a guest, actually. He's one of our customers, Tyler from Instruct. So, hey, Tyler.
Hey, it's really great to be here, and I appreciate y'all having me on. I'm excited to talk a little bit about our advertising strategy with metadata.
Amazing. How about you first? Just maybe have a brief intro of how you solve the company, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Tyler Crumpler, as you can see. So I'm leading demand gen and sales development here at Instruct. For those of you who aren't familiar with Instruct, which you may not be because we're not a huge company, we are really a lab platform where you think of the MongoDBs, the Databricks, the Red Hats of the world, so that they can then go out and enable their technical customers. So that is something to keep in mind when we're talking about this, and we'll go deeper. We have a very interesting ICP because it is this customer education enablement sales engineering. But then previously, I've been at several small startups like Gravity Sketch, Influx Data, and then Pindo, Bandwidth, and Citrix as well. So I've got a wealth of experience and actually have history with metadata all the way back to Pindo about 5 years ago now. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, amazing. I was telling this to Adi before we start. We have 3 people here that have all had history with the platform at more than one company. So it's really cool. I mean, that's kind of I don't know, it's cool. I feel like we're the geeks of the.
Yeah, it's pretty sticky is what that tells me. So
Yeah, it's sticky. Yeah, cool. All right, well, let's get going here.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think to get us started, I think let's start with your ICP. You already mentioned that your ICP is somewhat unique, somewhat challenging. Would love to get your take on it.
yeah, and we are just not like a traditional SaaS platform where you can sell your software to anyone, right? We have very select companies. You really need to be in that cloud native, like CNFC space is our bread and butter ICP, right? So you think of, a lot of time you have these people that we are going after are selling to very technical audience who need to learn how to code with in a certain type of database in a certain type of an environment using a certain type of language. Because at the end of the day, we're the platform that allows them to at scale track ROI and prove that. So, we run into a lot of times when you think about that, it can span across departments, right? Marketers can use us for lead gen because they want to get more people with, into training or just want to learn. That technical audience loves to learn. Customer education is really our bread and butter, though. We typically land there and we'll expand into other departments like sales engineering or demand gen or product marketing. But when you think of education, right, targeting people who do education, then a very small department that usually doesn't have a ton of budget and a very small group of SaaS companies, you're, kind of running into those gaps there. But then also, if I just go in and type in, I want to target people with education job titles, you're going to get professors, you're going to get school teachers. And so, we really did prior to metadata run into a lot of issues with that because I couldn't get but so granular in my platforms.
And as far as trying to estimate your total addressable market size, and maybe considering that you cannot allow yourself to just be on one channel, like how does that sit with you? Where do you land on your multi-channel efforts?
Yeah. And, I'm kind of a really firm believer of there is no such thing as inbound or outbound anymore. Like they all influence each other, right? Like if you're going outbound, I should also be showing ads to that person because we're targeting the same accounts, targeting them however, right? And so kind of a firm believer and you need to have an aligned sales and marketing strategy, which is why part of the reason I own sales development now. So that way we can make sure we're targeting the same accounts. I'm aligning with my, head of sales on who he's going after. But so I'm a firm believer that, you can build your ICP in a tool like Apollo, which is what I usually do. And then, we upload that into metadata and we start going after it and using intent signals or just like who we know we want or who's coming in an inbound channel. We're kind of, using that to go multi-channel. But I'm a firm believer you kind of just have to be everywhere your customers are. A lot of research shows it takes 17 touches before you get someone to engage with you cold, let's say. And so, you really just need to make sure you're everywhere. So Facebook.
So to the marketer that thinks that Facebook or Instagram aren't necessarily B2B channels, you say?
I say you're absolutely wrong. And honestly, like, it depends on your product, right? Like, that's not the truth for everybody. There is nuances to everything. What I've done at one company doesn't work at another. But I can say at Pindo, we had insane amounts of success using Facebook ads on metadata, but then also at Instruct. Like, it has been pretty insane for us. So actually, we have found that webinars do really, really well for us on Facebook. And so, we launched some Facebook ads as our first test for a webinar that we were promoting about a month and a half out. We actually drove more leads the first month of this quarter on Facebook for that webinar than we did all of last quarter for all of our ads. So like I believe it can definitely work. And they were good leads. They weren't bad leads. I can say that for sure.
We see right now actually something very similar for this year and last year for our big event in October, our demand event. We do ads to get lead like who would want to attend, and the leads from actually Facebook and Instagram are quite cheap, and it's the persona we want. So we're getting right now leads for that for the event, for example, like $25 a lead, right? And it's good leads. And again, it's not only for demo that we're trying to go after, it's just to get like more people into the event. And we find it's a lot better to do it on Facebook, Instagram. Because if we do a same campaign on LinkedIn, it's like we'll probably get leads too, but the cost is like 3-4 times, right? And for this campaign, we're not looking to get that. What's interesting about this campaign, because this is one of the lead gen campaigns that we run on Facebook, since it is a lead gen, we do see those leads later on after the event's over, it become opportunities. So then we see an influence from those leads. So that's why, for example, inside our system right now, we do see huge influence of the Facebook on opportunities. And at first I was like, how can we see a lot of influence from Facebook? Because usually we use it for the brand awareness. And it's that one campaign we get, but we see a lot of those leads become opportunities with us in the future and become customers. So it's if you can find, I also to people, if you can find the same person on LinkedIn and Facebook, why not? Like why at least not try, right? You can't just ignore it. Like, I think half the planet is on Facebook. I think the last time I read was like 3 billion people are on Facebook, right? So it's like literally half the planet. So by ignoring it, it's like, anyways, cool.
Yeah. And I mean, it's super interesting. Like, you're saying something very similar to me, but one of the things we're finding is actually that our top of funnel does really well on Facebook. And then more middle bottom of funnel is really doing better on LinkedIn, right? Like, we're not really pumping out demo ads, or if you go to our website right now, we have I was talking about how our customers use Instruct to teach their customers. You can actually go in and take a tour of the Instruct platform embedded on our website, like you were doing education to your customers, right? It's pretty basic, but that is a great lead gen tool for us that does really well on LinkedIn, not as well on Facebook, right? So it's about the offer.
Yeah. The other thing with Facebook that always amazes me is your competitors are almost never there. Like, I actually did some research before this call, like briefly. I don't know if for compare, but I found some. I put them in the Facebook ad library search to see if they have any advertising in Facebook. And the first 3 I checked, there's no advertising.
Yeah.
And the same thing I experienced. I'm also at Armor Blocks. This over at my last company. We're competing against companies that were massive, right? Like the Mimecast and the Proof Points of the world, right? Really big companies, was a huge budget, no Facebook ads. And we are like a tiny startup and like all over Facebook. So I'm like, not only am I like,
because here it's a limit. This is the beautiful thing, and for any scrappy marketer listening, this is exactly where you should really be perking your ears, because here on Facebook and Instagram, the limitation is not one of budget. Anyone can do Facebook and Instagram, but it's a limitation of skill that I would say traditional marketers don't necessarily have, where Tyler is not your traditional marketer.
Yeah, it's shocking to me, but amazing. Okay, how about talk? Yeah, I saw in the title that you head of management and sales development. So, any campaigns, like, how do you work with the SDR team since it's come under you? How do you work with them with the campaign? Like, how do you raise your awareness with them of what you're doing? Whether it's awareness campaigns or lead gen campaigns, and for example, are they looking up the ads or the source of the leads when you come in? I'm just curious because everyone.
And it's really nice having them sit on marketing, actually, especially at a company our size, right? This is my 3rd time having a sales development team under me.
Okay.
And I typically always land in the demand gen role first, and then it ends up happening. But the reason behind that is, if you can build that alignment to where you can say, like, all right, these are our 125 tier A accounts. These are the ones that, can be your, 6-figure customers. And then you have, this whole other market that can absolutely use you. It's still ICP, but, maybe not quite as big, maybe not a tier A account. Then you can really get super granular in the messaging you're saying. And so now, because I'm working so closely with the BDRs, I can actually help them and create that messaging of their sequences. So the first experience that they're getting from us is all the way from an ad, a cold touch on a sequence, a webinar. We're saying the same thing very consistently throughout, right? And AI has really helped a lot with that, because I can just build prompts for them that allows, them to actually write those emails, and it auto populates it for them, pretty guardrail specific. But, I think it's super important that you prioritize accounts with your AEs, you prioritize accounts with your BDRs. And then also you cast that wide net of just, okay, let's go after everyone else as well. And the second we start to see intent or engagement shift there, right? Okay, you're not getting anything, cool. Go get that low-hanging fruit. They're interested, they're engaging, and so let's start working out on that. And so it's really just about prioritization at that point.
Yeah, it's kind of like working in a magazine way. Like you have a clip of, and you can be here on the tier A list for say 90 days, and then you're
Yep.
out. You cannot keep. So it's like you're budgeting to the eyes of your target rather than channels and all of the whatever
Exactly.
it is in the middle between you and your targets. That's
It's
really
trying to be efficient, right? Like, let's get the bang for our buck. Yes, this is absolutely a tier A customer, but if a tier B is showing intent, guess what? Tier B in revenue is better than tier A or no revenue from tier A, right? So like, we need to be really smart and efficient here, especially, as a smaller startup, lean resources, lean headcount. I need to make sure I'm controlling that message. And so part of that is we actually weekly before our pipeline call, I sit down with the BDRs. We prioritize exactly what days they'll be working on, what outbound, what inbound, all of that, and then share that out to the AEs and broader sales and marketing leadership as part of the pipeline call. And that way we make sure everyone's aligned.
Sorry for cutting in.
No,
Do
you're
they
good.
contextualize to like which campaigns they like? As an SDR, I would know what they engaged with and all of that.
Yep, exactly. So we're sitting there and literally we do a day by day of this many people from this campaign. Here's your campaign brief. Here is your sequence for it. And then they can go in and build customization using the prompts from that sequence, as well as looking into those tier A prospects, go and do a little bit of research. Everyone else just hit them with a more automated, scalable AI approach. So it's pretty cool.
So you identify accounts with them in those calls that they should go after, like based on what you see engagements of these accounts, right?
Exactly. Whether that's coming from ads, whether that's coming from Apollo's intent tool, whether it's coming directly to our website, whether it's coming from an event, a webinar, whatever that is, right?
You do it with them, like you're doing with them in the call.
Yeah. Oh, we do it every Monday, and then we take that weekly, basically prioritization schedule out to the pipeline call, and then obviously, you're picking up a demo request as it comes in, right? Like that's your top priority, right? But
if they want to, not because we've tried this here in the past, some other companies, and usually we tell the SDR, here's a list of accounts, you pick and whatever. But I like your approach, almost like, let me handhold you from the beginning at least. Let's pick the accounts together. And I love the idea that you have prompts from them ready to go, so then you can just go use this prompt. Because that's the other change. That's the other challenge that you run into, that you get the account list. Okay, great, this is good to go after. But then the email sequencing and stuff like that. And I think if you just use the same email sequence for like everybody, it's not good. So you do need to have some customization. So having a prompt is really clever way to also to get over that hurdle too. So that's an interesting approach. We are here a process too. Yeah,
it's kind of a scaling of a boutique. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Scaling personalization is kind of what we're trying to do, right? Yeah. Like if we can get you 90% of that email and it's already somewhat personalized, and then you can just take a look and make sure it makes sense and actually add that like your human touch of your personality, because at the end of the day, people buy from people, right? You don't buy from automated emails. We know that. So I think the best that we can get you there faster, the more effective we can make you. And if we can get the right people in front of you from a multi-touch approach and prioritize that, then the better, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how big is your team, Tyler? Like how big is your team? Like you have demand gen, you have sales team underneath.
Yeah, hilariously, it is
So I want to know, yeah, like
you right now, me and a BDR. It's the cool thing about what we've done with this like boutique personalization, right? It's like we're able to do a lot more with a lot less.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly yeah.
There's a whole talk out there right now, like how big should the team should be, like if the team is modern. And I honestly think, like, especially now with AI and just all the
Yeah.
people out there, you don't need like you don't need large teams anymore, right? Like it's really
Yeah.
smaller the better, small and nimble, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So
Efficiency, scrappy. Like, I mean, look, my BDR is working at a trade show today, and here I am as a head of level taking in demo requests for him so he can go work the booth and get leads there, right?
Mhm.
You just kind of make it work. We're a startup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you just, of course, right, that again is some revenue scale. The thing with BDR, the fact you already have a process with him, that process will be templatized when you hire other BDR, right? A lot of people, you go in and you go an SDR team to like 8 to 10 people, and like if you don't have a process, so all of a sudden you have now 8 to 10 people that are lost and confused, don't know what to do. You get a process working with one, and you almost prove it to yourself. This is how it works. Then it just becomes, here's your playbook when you hire other SDR. Then if they can't do the work, it becomes really almost a question. Well, it's not probably the work, it's you. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, like it sounds mean, but that becomes thing, right? But when it's unproven and you hire 8 to 10 people and everyone's having a hard time, then it becomes, well, is it us? Is it them? Is it what? So,
Yeah.
because we still need humans like to sell the product unless it's purely like e-commerce online, right? So, you need that. Okay, so your ad management. So like all the work you're doing, right? So you got the BDR, I get that. The BDR is handling all the inbound leads and outbound, all of that. That's amazing. Are you managing all the ad stuff on your own? Because it seems like you do have a fairly active ad program, right? Like you do multi-channel and so that. So how are you managing that? Are you getting
Yeah. So
help
while
from?
my direct team is just me and a BDR at the moment, I am very lucky to have other partners. So we have an in-house videographer, we have a content person, we have a PMM, and everyone is similar to myself, where we are all more strategic, senior level individual contributors still, basically, right? I mean, at the end of the day, like, and so I was lucky enough to walk in to my boss who leads marketing. He is a PMM background. He had all the messaging, all the ICP documents built out for me, so I was able to just walk in and already know that, right? So then from there, it's just, okay, what channels do we start testing? How do we prioritize that? Where do we put budget? My content person also has a design background. She does design. She comes to the meetings with me in metadata to hear what's working, what's not working, what ads do we want to tweak, what needs to come next, and she's cranking those out at the same time. And so really at the end of the day, like, I'm just working with you all to manage the strategy and the audiences. And, I'm very lucky to have a great team. That's what it comes down to.
You didn't mention ops as one of those teams. Is there an ops person at your company, like a rev ops or?
We have a head of rev ops, and he does play around in our HubSpot. But at the end of the day, I'm the admin of HubSpot. I am also an admin in Salesforce, so we both kind of like trust each other to just do what needs to be done. Right?
Yeah, you have admins everywhere, basically.
Yeah. Buddy system. If you see something, say something, and it works. Basically.
Yeah. Exactly. And I let him know when I'm doing stuff, just like he lets me know when he's doing stuff in HubSpot. Like we're good partners. So as long as you have that, understanding, it works.
Yeah.
Cool. And this maybe is an ugly topic, but like how are you tracking the impact of your ad campaigns right now when you show the teams, right? Like, I want to start, of course, so hard to track. Actually, I should probably ask. Yeah, how much have you spent as a percentage of your ad spend, say roughly as a percentage on brand awareness or top of funnel stuff and lead gen, or is it all into one bucket too, which is fine? I'm just curious.
Adi, I saw you might have something to say on this because I'm going to go on a soapbox about this one. I can go.
Okay, just laced in there. How, as far as the content strategy to Facebook and the different channels, because the funnel stage and the different channels. That's all.
Yeah. So I am a huge believer, even as a demand marketer, and it's very interesting. I have slides about this from my first week when I started here about my strategy and how I was going to do this. Without a strong brand, there is going to be no demand. If you show me a company that doesn't have a good brand, I'll show you a company that has a runaway demand cost. CMO of Pindo actually said that. I use it all the time. I believe in it firmly. I learned that from him, and it is absolutely true. And so, I look at it as really the bulk of our time should be spent on that larger brand campaigns where we're getting people in with thought leadership content. Like I shared, these webinars perform really well for us. We can cast a wide net, go in a ton of people. And then that's where we start hitting them with, hey, take a tour. Hey, check out this customer story. Hey, request a demo after that tour, right? So we're really looking at that funnel. And granted, those conversions farther down are always going to be more expensive, right? But they're going to be better quality because they're people that have already engaged with us. They already know us. They're showing intent for some type of thought leadership solution or some type of thought leadership that we ultimately can provide a solution for, right? And so I look at it that way. And then if you're looking, I don't really exactly bucket it out. Honestly, I give Kanika and team a budget at the beginning of the month, and I let them optimize for me based off what's performing because metadata can do that in the background. And so honestly, metadata is controlling where the budget goes when I give them a big one, right? Or I give them my big number. And then from there, we route everything through Salesforce campaigns. Honestly, metadata does a great job of tagging these leads for us. So I'm able to route those, say they were advertising versus not. We're setting their lead sources based off of that in the background in HubSpot. And then I'm able to go in and, look at that velocity of how long to lead, MQL, op, close won or close loss. So yeah, we're really tracking all of that on the back end kind of. But, with a small ICP, like, in a small team, we're not creating 50 ops a quarter. We're just not that team, right? And so that's always something interesting to keep in mind with people as well. So
No, it's amazing. It's great that you have the. I mean, it's great that you're actually using a platform the way it should be used, where you let the system optimize for you instead of trying to think, I know best. Like you have a goal, of course, whatever it is, but of course, still monitor, but you let the system optimize and tell you where to go. And then the fact that reporting is made easier for you, that's helpful. I had the same experience when I was at my last company. I had a team of one. It was me and one other person.
yeah.
We were running campaigns. Actually, every time I launch a campaign with my data, I would always I would post a slide to the company saying we launched this campaign with all this variation. And everyone was like, "How are you doing all this stuff? Like so much experiment." And I'm like, we have this tool, right? So
Yeah.
I felt like we're competing at a much higher. I felt like I was working with a team of like 4 or 5 people because they were able to launch a lot of variation experiments and then see. So
Yeah.
it was cool. And even here now at the data here, there's only one person internally that helps me with the campaign launch, right?
Yeah.
We don't have a team of like 10 people here that's helping us. So it's a very lean team here too as well. Like
Yeah. I mean, we're a full on team of 5 in marketing, and I feel like, we're more efficient than some of the teams of 20 and 30 I've worked on just because everyone knows their place. They're really good at what they do, and we can just move back and forth. And, talking about that point again of just like efficiency and letting the platform do what it's supposed to do for you. Look, I own field marketing as well. I own the BDRs. I own, every piece of the demand gen funnel. This is a piece of it. And I was sharing this with Kanika, actually, who is, let's count her as team of 6. She is our account manager here who actually runs all of our ads. So huge shout out to her. But like, I told her yesterday, I'm like, I know that we could probably make these audiences a lot better, but it's just working so well right now that and other things aren't. So I focus on those, right? Like every week I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get you some new audiences. And then I just don't because it's working, So it's nice to be able to just like let it run and see that it's working.
Yeah. No, and the fact you guys the fact you have a person in house like for videos and a person for content, that's what you need to keep going, right? Because even at least I think even the best ads or the best stuff, it goes stale after the time, right? So you need to have the in-house, what do you call it? Like
Flywheel.
Studio.
yeah, exactly.
A full-on studio.
Yeah, it's
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
The word I'm allergic to for marketers is evergreen campaigns. I haven't met an evergreen campaign. I'm 13 years doing marketing. Never met an evergreen campaign that can just run and
It always has to be refreshed, to your point, right? Like you can come out with every year the huge figurehead asset that performs for you year over year, but you got to refresh it every year.
Yeah.
It needs to be all new content. Like those state of reports do phenomenal. That's like my ideal evergreen content. But it's 2024 right now, and if I said, "Hey, go check out my state of from 2023," you'd be like, "That's out of date," I always joke like there's all these LinkedIn influencers these days, and I'm like, the second you see it on LinkedIn, that strategy isn't going to work anymore.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like if someone if someone you know isn't cool is telling you that something is cool, you're like, okay, that has been.
Yeah, the LinkedIn is funny. Like people associate this is not against influencers inside LinkedIn. I think there's some good people, but there's a lot of people I know personally that are like really good marketers that are just not vocal at all on LinkedIn. Yeah, the people that are vocal not necessarily always mean they're the best people. You know what I mean? So you have to be careful. Just because you're the most vocal and have a lot of share, whatever it does not mean. Because I know a lot. So it's an interesting thing. And there's also the whole like echo chamber thing that happens in LinkedIn, right?
Yep.
Follow a few people and everyone says, "Oh my God, this is the way to do it." But really, at the end of the day, you just have to run your stuff and run experiments and see what you get, right? Like everyone, you know, and the faster you can run experiments is the better, right? So if something you think is good, just try it out and see what happens.
And it's like you said, it goes back to what I was saying earlier of just you don't every company is different, right? What you did at one company isn't always going to work at the other. And so you need to be able to have that 60-40 approach of like, I'm going to go in and test a bunch of things to 60%. And if they do really well, you go in and do that other 40%, right? If not, you move on to the next thing. And I mean, even with that, I shared that we have a bunch of people who are really good on our team. Like when we create new ads, we create like 20 different versions of that ad, different colors, different whatever, images, all these things. And then, again, metadata is going in, it's running all of those. It says, all right, this one performs the best against the audience, shift all the budget here, turn all the others off, right? And so it's not hard to go in and just quickly tweak a few things on these ads and really get 24 ads out there and testing to see what's really going to work for you pretty quickly.
No, that's a good point.
100%.
Yeah.
And as far as like the experimentation, as long as once you see that something really clicks with the channel, the type of targets, the type of funnel stage that you are providing them with, you can just dive deeper into that. Just okay, let's another version of that. Let's take another spin of that. That document was good, amazing. Let's do a slideshow of that, a carousel of that, whatever it is, But we gotta keep it.
Got to keep it fresh.
I keep it fresh, and that's why also like I get scared when anyone is running like an ad campaign on just one channel, the same one evergreen. Because I'm like, even if it's working for you, like now, amazing. The chance of that same campaign working for you, like in a year from now, or even 6 months, is so low. So like that's why I like to really experiment across other things. Because there's also time where like we see it all the time. There is time where the ads on Facebook are not doing as well for like let's say a couple of months, but the ads on LinkedIn are doing better, or vice versa. Or stuff in Google or Instagram. So it's like just having that multiple channels. It's like you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, because there are going to be times where, for reasons outside of our control, honestly, I think in some cases the platform is just going to be more expensive, like for this quarter or more, whatever, right? So by having yourself, I would say, like spread out a bit, allows you to like weather like these things better than if you just had everything in one channel. So
I mean, anyone who tells you seasonality isn't real is kidding themselves. Like I can speak like this August was probably one of the worst I've seen just in general, even sending emails. I'm like, man, I'm getting like 6 times more auto replies than we usually get, right? Like you could really feel it. I mean, look, I took a 2-week vacation this year in August. Like that, it was real. And so, I mean, is once you start to learn all of that and you can shift your budgets around to plan for it, you can back that into your actual even company level planning. I think it's super important to be able to do that. But back to the point about like keeping the content fresh too. Like my ideal state, and you can't always do this, is even if an ad's performing well, I want to be introducing a new test to that ad channel every 3 months, regardless. Even if it's crushing it, it's like, all right, it's time to see if we can get like that's got to be getting stale. People have already seen that. We need to introduce something new, and if it still doesn't perform as good as what's been performing, metadata will let you know, and it keeps running it there, right? But you need to at least be making sure and checking that box. So.
Absolutely. No, like I said, like early on, you're not, unfortunately, the typical person who runs demand gen. That's why it would be good to see some other people. But hopefully, this podcast helps in a small way. But that's the idea, that you just need to experiment and try new things, and always be experimenting and trying. Because if you get the mind saying, well, this used to work for me, there's a good chance whoever it is that you think used to work for you is not going to anymore. That's why, when people, for example, hire head of marketing in some companies and they come in, all new and say, well, this is what we did in my last company. It's gonna work here. That's almost like now it's 10 times. Wherever you play the last company, unless it's the same industry, maybe and same thing,
Yeah.
it's not going to work. But some people come in and they're like, no, this is what I did. You see it a lot with salespeople actually. Lots
Yeah.
of people say that's how I run my sales. Oh, but like, dude, like that used to work maybe half a year ago. It's not working anymore. You gotta change something, right? And of course, it's
Yeah.
still this is going to be a bit with salespeople. They find other things first to blame, but eventually they realize, okay, I got my style right. But
Yeah, I will go ahead and say the most stark experience I had with that was my last job. It was a VR software company, so you couldn't just get a demo because if you didn't have a headset, you couldn't do the demo, right? We were selling to only Fortune 100 companies, and I can tell you not a single thing I had ever done before worked on that one. Like that was a whole learning curve in itself.
that's a tough crowd.
Yeah, it was hard.
I mean,
Deals, but yeah.
the how I became a client of Metadata was I was only targeting casino and gaming companies, like legal casinos, DraftKings, all
Yeah.
of that, BetMGM, all that stuff. LinkedIn doesn't exist to them.
Yeah.
Google paid search, they have 1,000 VPNs. You cannot run a single ad that would target them. It's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or bust. That's it. And
That is-
I was like, okay, we're gonna learn a new thing now. You know,
I mean,
Yeah.
that's another good point you just make is that even if a company, even for you as a marketer, if you look at it from a selfish point of view, it's in your interest to be trained on how to run this ad on other channel because there's a chance your other job, like that you said, you say, oh, I know LinkedIn. You go to another job, you're like, LinkedIn's not going to work here. You got to learn. So it's in your interest to actually learn these other channels and kind of explore them, right?
yeah,
Because
I remember my first campaigns. I was on LinkedIn running 0.1 CTR. What the heck am I doing with this? It's
Yeah.
nothing.
Well, and look, I mean, it's like you kind of are talking about. If you talk about when I was at Pindo, right? I had a team of 10 and I did not own advertising, but I had a counterpart who was using metadata who I helped evaluate it with because at the end of the day, my team was responsible for pipeline. And so I very greatly cared about advertising. I wasn't in here using it, but look at me now. I'm in here using it. I'm in metadata every day and I need to know how to run those campaigns. In my past 2 startups before that, I was either in there doing it myself or we had an agency doing it, right? And so I think, just because you're at a big company with those resources doesn't always mean you will be. And it doesn't always mean you should be, right? Like we had a team of 5 people running our ads, I think, at the time that I was at Pindo. And that was a blessing, especially with metadata. Like they were experimenting and testing things. And yeah, it was awesome. But, it is important. It's in your own interest, especially in today's world where everyone wants everything to be leaner. They want you to be more efficient. It's good to know how to do more. So
yeah, do more, experiment more. Is good for you. Even So I absolutely agree with that.
And your answer can no longer be, oh, let's just get an agency at
yeah,
whatever 100,000 a month. No, that's not.
and it's like I talked about, one of the BDRs is actually at a conference today, and I took an inbound demo request. You can't be above that stuff, and it's good to learn that. And I'm putting myself in his shoes. I'm learning. I'll be able to better help him because of what I've learned. And so I think that's just an important thing in today's world is just to not be afraid to get in there and do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that's to be to startups, but honestly, if you can do it in startups, you can do it anywhere because people are expecting now. I think more lean teams, right? And AI, everyone's looking at kind of reducing the workforce, becoming more lean, efficient. So it's in your interest to get really hands on with some stuff. I mean, that's one of the things you sometimes lose when you're at a big company. You get hands on, which means if you're not hands on something, honestly, probably means you're running some old playbooks or you're not aware even what's new because it's changing so much. Even every year, I would say every 6 months, is a good chance whoever you thought was working for you is not, is going to stop working. So you kind of need to always be on the top of things and experimenting and trying new things. So it's, I think it's really good.
I mean, everyone loves to talk about AI, right? But it has really changed the game this year. This has been one of the most rapid changes in just what softwares are available, what they can do, how you can target. I mean, you look. I mentioned Apollo earlier. If you look at a tool like that, there wasn't really an Apollo even maybe 5 years ago, right? That just wasn't there. Maybe not even last year. So it's pretty interesting.
But we moved from Outreach to Apollo almost a year ago, right? And yeah, and then there's other tool that, for example, like this tool called I think Clay, right? Which
Yeah.
I keep hearing about, right? And it's not easy to use, but you can do all kind of enrichments and
Yeah.
automation on top of it. So really, like you really need to know like what's out there, and yeah, it's if you're too much offhand, then I think by the time you start to explore something, it's probably already like a year too late, right? So or something like that. So um, yeah, cool.